This is the Game 7 podcast. The Astros take a 3-2 lead in the World Series. Garrett Cole shuts them down, silences Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., and Joe Ross does his best to keep the Nationals in it, keep them hungry, give the Nationals crowd something to cheer about every once in a while. Game 7 podcast is brought to you by Met Radio. Met Radio is the student voice of MSU Denver. Met Radio is a small part of Met Media. Met Media is basically what gives student journalists at MSU Denver a publication. It is part of the Metropolitan newspaper, the Metrosphere magazine, the Met Report, which is the Met TV, and obviously Met Radio, the student voice of MSU Denver. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. That's what you're listening to. One of those, at least, right now. You can hit us up with questions for all of our podcasts. Interact with us on social media. It's just me today. Me, Isaac Bugarin. If you don't like my takes today, you can email me, game7show@gmail.com. You could message us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, give us a review on Facebook. That is Game 7 Show. YouTube is where we post the full-length clips of this podcast, where it's just basically just video of me talking, just in case you didn't want to, stream it if you want to see my beautiful face. That is Game 7 Show. You can follow us on Twitter @_Game7. You can follow me @Isaac_Bugarin. Will Sattler's not in the studio with me today due to some inclement weather here in Denver, Colorado. Usually he's in the studio with me. Usually we talk all about sports, this and that. Today he's not in, unfortunately. So it's just me. You get to listen to my voice for probably under an hour. Hour or so. But you can follow him @Will Sattler. We give you a new show every single Tuesday. And pretty much this podcast is dedicated to sports. Primarily, it's a lot of Colorado sports. We talk a lot of Broncos, a lot of Rockies. Definitely a lot of Rockies. Nuggets, Avs. Will's a big Avalanche fan. I am on week 1 of being the biggest Avalanche fan in their history. If you listen to last week's podcast, this is week 1. I'm still learning a lot about the game, but yeah, primarily Colorado sports. But this episode is going to be all about the World Series. It's kind of what I like to talk about. It's my favorite part, October. I think October is pretty much like the best time of year because, so like Sunday, it was the sports equinox is what they call it. When we have NHL games on, we have NFL games on, we have NBA games on, and we have the World Series all in one day. That was on Sunday. That was a great day to be a sports fan. Great day to be a sports fan in general. Again, I am Isaac Bugarin here in Met Radio, talking all about Game 6 of the World Series, which is going to be tonight. Kind of sad, But first, before we get into the World Series talk, I'm going to give you a little bit of what's going on today in history, just like we always do on this podcast. 1974, happy birthday, R.A. Dickey, baseball pitcher, right? Won a bronze medal 1996. Was born in Nashville, Tennessee today on October 29th, 1974. Happy birthday, R.A. Dickey. 2008, the Philadelphia Phillies beat the Tampa Bay Rays 4-3 in Game 5 at Citizens Bank Park. This was the Phillies' second baseball World Series in their 126-year history. Cole Hamels was the MVP. Cole Hamels was dominant when I was growing up. I mean, I remember being a kid and thinking Cole Hamels was probably the best pitcher of me growing up. I mean, in 2008, I was 10 years old. I remember. 2014, San Francisco beats the Kansas City Royals 3-2 in Game 7. Kind of see the comparison. This is the Game 7 podcast. The San Francisco Giants beat the Kansas City Royals 3-2 in Game 7. That was at Kauffman Field in Kansas City. This was the Giants' third baseball World Series in 5 years. Madison Bumgarner was MVP. Madison Bumgarner went off in that series, if I'm not mistaken. Madison Bumgarner pretty much carried that Giants team. I mean, I believe, off the top of my head, I want to say he started at least 3 games in that in that World Series. I think he came out of the bullpen to close Game 7. So maybe he had two starts and he closed 3 games, or had 2 starts and closed Game 7. So he made 3 appearances in the World Series. That sounds more right. But Madison Bumgarner, MVP. 2018, this was just last year. Klay Thompson breaks the NBA record for previously held by Stephen Curry. For the most three-pointers in a game, he had 14 in the Warriors' 149 to 124 win over the Bulls in Chicago. Real quick, to bounce back to that Kansas City at Kauffman Field. I've been to Kauffman Field. I was just there this past summer, and it's really pretty. Kauffman Field is actually really pretty. They got they've got those fountains that are all in the outfield. Pretty neat. Although I think you kind of lose some fans, like at least people that want to sit in those outfield bleacher seats. But it's a tall stadium. Like the third deck goes pretty much straight up. Like it is kind of scary to be in Kauffman Field, but it's a beautiful ballpark nonetheless. But they were in the World Series 2014. The 2019 World Series is finally coming down to a close. But what is going on, everybody? Thank you for stopping in. We are potentially 1 game away from the end of the 2019 baseball season. Scary times. Scary times. No more baseball. No more baseball left, potentially, after tonight. Tuesday, October 29th. Almost no more baseball. Kind of sad to think about. It's been a long season. Kind of just start us off. This is the first time we've seen the road team win the first 5 games in the World Series since 1996. First time that we've seen the road team win the first 5 games since 1996. Who was even in that World Series? I don't even know. Oh, Braves-Yankees. Okay. Braves-Yankees. 92nd edition of the World Series. Huh. Interesting. It is really a tale of basically 5, or I get a tale, two different tales that we have this series so far. Games 1 and 2. I mean, the Nationals dominated. Nationals absolutely dominated those first 2 games. You know, and then you want to look back at Game 6. You know, where the Nationals had 4 hits, and I'm pretty sure 2 of those hits came from Juan Soto himself. Nationals had 17 runs in 2 games. And then they had put up 3 runs over the next 3 games. Kind of interesting. I guess Washington left their bats in Houston. Left all of their offense in Houston. But good news is, baseball's a game of patterns. You know? Road team wins. Game 6, they should feel somewhat confident tonight, you know. You should be. If you're confident in patterns, if you really do believe in patterns in baseball, you should be confident. Back in Houston, Game 6, who do we got going tonight? We got Steven Strasburg, Justin Verlander. I want to talk about a great pitching matchup. This is it. Justin Verlander tends to choke in the World Series, though. I don't think he's won a single game in the World Series, even going all the way back to when Detroit played against San Francisco, when he was a member of the Tigers. I don't think he won a game. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Justin Verlander who gave up that absolute moonshot to Pablo Sandoval at what was then AT&T Park in San Francisco. I remember Pablo Sandoval took Justin Verlander deep. It's like first inning. Took him deep. But that's Justin Verlander's struggle all season, is that he really struggles with the long ball. He really does. Is that he really struggles with the long ball. He really does. This is the Game 7 podcast. He really does. if you had to pick Justin Verlander or Steven Strasburg to be on your team tonight to pitch Game 6 of a win or go home game, I think you're going to pick Steven Strasburg, no doubt about it. I really do. Justin Verlander struggles with the long ball, and he hasn't been on top of his game. Steven Strasburg, on the other hand, has been pretty much lights out, I feel like, this entire postseason. You know? I mean, he's been in the league since 2010. Postseason, he's 4-0 with a 1.93 ERA. He's pitched in 5 games. Started 4 of those. 28 innings pitched. Get this, 40 strikeouts. In his career in the postseason, he's 5-2 with a 1.34 ERA. 7 games started. 47 innings pitched. 64 strikeouts. He's scary in the regular season, too. If you want to go back to 2019, I mean, he still posted a record of 18-6. 3.3 ERA. 33 starts, 209 innings pitched. For starting pitchers, if you can get over 200 innings pitched in a season, I mean, you're being a workhorse at that point. 251 strikeouts. That's pretty good. His last 7 games, 3-1 with a 2.05 ERA. Last 15 games, 8-2 with a 2.9 ERA. Pretty good, man. That was at least in the regular season. But in general, he's always done pretty good. I would 100% rather have Steven Strasburg on my team right now than Justin Verlander. I mean, I'm a big numbers guy. Anybody who's listened to this podcast before knows that I'm a big number guy. And I think numbers never lie. That's something I pretty much stand by. And I think the stats just prove that I think Justin Verlander struggles in the postseason. He struggled particularly this postseason. Last time he went up against the Nationals, 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 runs, and a long ball, a home run. And he only struck 6 guys out. Go back to that game against the Yankees on October 18th. I mean, at least he pitches 7 innings, but gives up 5 hits, 4 runs, again, 2 long balls, only 9 strikeouts, excuse me. Game before that, when he pitched against the Yankees, didn't make it out of the 7th inning. 5 hits, 2 runs, and another home run. Walked 2 guys, only struck out 7. So the Astros shouldn't be raising that trophy tonight. Realistically, if I'm just looking at the starting pitching stats, Justin Verlander's good. Don't get me wrong, but this Astros team needs Verlander to pitch 7 innings and avoid that long ball. He really does. Steven Strasburg, on the other hand, he's more of a ground ball type pitcher. And I know that's a scary lineup Houston has. Always one of the scariest lineups. But this is a lineup that could absolutely take Justin Verlander yard multiple times tonight in Game 6. Trey Turner, Adam Eaton, Anthony Rendon, Juan Soto, again, one of probably the best 21, who just turned 21, best 20-year-old in all of baseball right now. Howie Kendrick. Asdrubal Cabrera could probably go yard too. Ryan Zimmerman, Kurt Suzuki. It should be a great game tonight. Game 6 will be one of the best World Series games, I think, in history. I think you're going to see a pitcher's duel, and I really think Justin Verlander, if he can get away without giving up a home run, the Astros have a shot to shake hands tonight and pop some champagne bottles. They really do. But the Nationals have to find their offense in order for that not to happen. Again, you had 4 hits in Game 6, or Game 5, excuse me. 2 of those hits came from Juan Soto. They had 17 runs in 2 games, and then they put up 3 runs over the next 3 games. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Garrett Cole was an absolute beast in Game 5. Actually, he only had 9 strikeouts. Bum. What a bum. Garrett Cole's a bum for only having 9 strikeouts. If you don't get 10 strikeouts, Garrett Cole, you basically sucked that day. No, I'm just kidding. Cole is very good. You guys see that curveball that he was throwing? He threw a lot of off speed in Game 5. And he said it after the game was that they just realized that the Nationals just couldn't hit the off-speed pitch, at least from Garrett Cole. It's hard to hit that off-speed pitch when you see 99 on the outside black every other pitch, you know? The umpires are kind of helping him out. The umpire was a little weird the other night. Forget his name. Gary Blackmouth or something like that. I don't know. I have to look it up. That's probably way off. But umpires didn't really help. At least, I mean, they were. The stats say that the umpire called actually a pretty consistent game. He was right on the strikes and balls counts. He was right like 92% of the time. League average, or I guess the average umpire calls 91% of the pitches correct. At least according to StatCast, which is Major League Baseball's, what do you want to call it? Stat tracker, I guess. It's the same thing. So he called it a fairly well game. It was just a couple different pitches here and there where what I believe he called a ball to George Springer that could have rung him up, and then eventually it leads to a grand slam from Houston, something like that. There's also another one where I forget who it was, the Nationals player. It was clearly a ball, clearly outside. It's like a full count, and the Nationals player basically takes off before the umpire calls a strike, or before the umpire had a chance to call a pitch a ball or a strike. But it was clearly outside. You're looking at a ball and a half or so, and batter knew it, and umpire ringed him up on it and said something to the effect of, "You're not walking out on me." Same thing happened to who was it? Oh gosh, Nationals pitcher throws a absolute pitch right on the black, and again, the catcher gets up to throw the ball around, and umpire says, "You're not walking off on me." Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Umpires. I'm not one for robo-umps, but I think there's the human element of being an umpire is okay. You know, I like that part of baseball. It's the human element of umpiring, of refereeing, of making calls, you know. Humans make mistakes. Umpires make mistakes. But it's when you're starting to let your emotions get into the game of saying, "You're not walking out on me." I think that's when it gets ridiculous. That's when it gets too much. But that's just me. As an umpire, you have to realize that nobody in the stadium is there to see you. Nobody's there to watch the umpire put on a show and call balls and strikes that are a ball and a half off the plate just because a player leaves the box by a quarter of a second early because he knew the ball was outside. I mean, come on. Umpires got to be better. They got to be better. I'm actually glad we didn't have like Angel Hernandez back there. Who knows what that percentage would be? Probably would be more like 80% of correct calls. League average, or I guess umpire average, is 91% of calls that are correct. So, What about the dude that takes that home run ball off the chest? Did you guys see that? Absolute rocket to left center field at Nationals Park. Dude's holding 2 Bud Lights, one in each hand. Sees the ball coming right to him and just takes it right off the chest. I don't think he spilled. Oh, well, actually, he spilled. He set down his beers, and I think there was a little bit of uppour that came in, or that came up, I guess. But other than that, I mean, he didn't. He just earned himself an ad. Sponsorship. Bud Light's probably going to pay him. They tweeted at him. I wish I had the tweet right in front of me, but Bud Light tweeted at him to say he's probably going to get something, I bet. I wouldn't be surprised. Get free Bud Light for the rest of 2019. You know how much press Bud Light just got from that? how many people have seen that video of the dude holding 2 Bud Light cans, taking a home run ball right off the chest, and still gets the ball without spilling? Pretty solid move by that guy. Pretty solid move. Just got himself a sponsorship for sure. Oh, and another thing is, I know everybody saw it, and I think it's going pretty viral on social media right now, is the boobs flashing on the 7th inning of Game 5, Nationals Park. 2 girls behind home plate, 7th inning, crowds on their feet, and the 2 girls just stand there and flash the camera. Garrett Cole steps off. I wonder if Garrett Cole saw it and that's why he stepped off. I wonder. I really do, because it all happened almost right in the same second, where girl 1 flashes her boobs first, and then a couple seconds later, girl 2 flashes her boobs. What was their names? Julia Rose or something like that? I don't know. The second girl, or the first one, received a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball stadiums for doing that. Or they actually called her out on what was it? Flashing the camera, flashing Garrett Cole, flashing the game on national television, but also for inducing others to do it also. And so she received a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball. She probably wanted that, to be honest. She probably wanted to get banned. That's free press. That's free press to promote whatever business. I was talking to Gloria. Gloria was somebody that I was going to have on the podcast this week, and then we ended up running into some issues with the weather, and we couldn't both make it into the studio on time. But I was talking to Gloria, and Gloria was saying that they're promoting breast cancer awareness. Not exactly sure. She said something to the effect of, one, she didn't like it, which I agree. It is kind of trashy. I guess her exact words were, I honestly didn't like the whole flashing at a World Series game. Poor Cole, he couldn't focus. Still won, though. But she said it was for breast cancer awareness. She posted on her Instagram story about it. She said they mainly did it to get their brand noticed, and their brand gives money to women who suffer from breast cancer. Loves that the organization does that, but she doesn't like that they flash the whole nation on television at a World Series game. So many other ways to raise awareness at a World Series game. So, I mean, she's right. Gloria's 100% right. There's a lot of other ways that you can promote something without, I guess, finding a way to get banned from all Major League Baseball stadiums. You could bring a banner. I saw that. I saw one that said impeach Trump that they showed at Nationals Park. I wonder if that dude got kicked out also for bringing that sign into Nationals Park. That was the night that Donald Trump actually went to the game. There's lots of ways that you can promote your brand without having to do something to gain national attention like that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sure she's gained tons of followers and tons of likes and tons of social media interaction and the communication of it. She probably has, but at the end of the day, I think there's different ways that you could probably go about that. Another thing that I saw in Game 5 of the World Series was something cool that they do at Nationals Park. Well, I went there this summer and I saw it for myself, saw it firsthand. Was that at every game, they have people from the military, whatever, armed forces, different branches. They have them sit behind home plate, whatever, and during the middle of whatever inning it is, they have them sit behind home plate, whatever, and during the middle of whatever inning it is, they all stand up and basically like wave their caps and they put them on the Jumbotron or the big screen out there in right field. The whole crowd stands up, cheers, takes their hats off, claps for them and whatnot. And they do it at every game. Every single game. This is what happens in Washington, D.C. But they did that, and then they put the screen on Donald Trump and a bunch of other people that were in whatever suite, whatever box that he was in. and the crowd boos. I thought it was kind of funny that you're getting booed in Washington D.C. at a World Series game. It was instant. It was like everybody went from clapping and cheering for all the armed forces, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump comes on and it's like boo, like instant changing noise. And then as soon as they put the camera right back on all of the armed forces and people that are serving our country, everybody starts to cheer again. It was like instantaneous. It was kind of funny. But that was Game 5, you know. Astros won all 3 games on the road. I said it, Astros in 6, you know. Before Game 3 in Nationals Park, they brought out the stage like to practice on what the stage would look like if the Nationals had won the World Series in Washington, D.C. They were up 2-0. All you had to do was win 2 games out of 3 in Nationals Park, and they would be raising up that World Series trophy. But they lost all 3. And I said ever since they brought out that stage, I tweeted it. Astros in 6. That's the ultimate jinx. To jinx yourself. To bring out that World Series stage and presentation and practice how it was going to be done right there behind second base. The ultimate jinx. Ultimate jinx. I'm sure Houston's not doing that tonight. They are not bringing out the stage right now before the game to practice what it would look like before they win the World Series. That is the ultimate jinx. They just jinx themselves. That's what I think. You know? But the talking point of Game 5 ultimately was the boobs, the Bud Light guy, and the umpires' poorly timed bad calls. You know? Those are the talking points of Game 5. And it shouldn't be. It should be Garrett Cole. 9 strikeouts. Pitching a great game. You know, Garrett Cole, you need to get 10 strikeouts next time because that's just what you do. That's what you do every single outing. 10 strikeouts. That's kind of what we expect now. Yordan Alvarez, again, I said it last week on the podcast, was that Yordan Alvarez was going to have a great series. He was going to find a chance to come up big for this Houston Astros, and he did. Carlos Correa tying the shortstop record for home runs in a World Series. We should be talking about that. George Springer have the 3rd most in the World Series by non-Yankee. You know, these are all talking points of this Game 5 baseball game that we should be talking about right now, but we're not. We're not. But Game 6, what do we have to look forward to? You know? Steven Strasburg and again, Justin Verlander going at it head-to-head. If I was to make a bold prediction tonight, I'd say that the Nationals put up another inning like they did in Game 2 in Houston where they put up 6 in the 7th. I think something similar like that's going to happen tonight. I hope the one thing that I hope, I hope we see a great game, obviously. I hope we see a great game. But I'm also kind of rooting for the Nationals tonight because I want one more day of baseball. One more game of baseball this year. This season can't end just yet. I want one more game. Give me a Game 7. That's what this podcast is all about. It's even titled Game 7. I mean, come on. Cut me some slack. Game 6s are great, but Game 7s are better. Anything can happen in Game 7. Anything can happen in Game 7. Plus, I want to see Max Scherzer pitch one more time. You know, he got scratched from Game 5 due to spasms and muscle contractions in his neck, I believe. Something to that effect. Do you know how bad it must be for Max Scherzer to get scratched from a Game 5? Unless it was a conspiracy, I guess. If you want to dive into some conspiracies about why Max Scherzer got scratched, maybe the Nationals just looked across the team, looked across the field and said, you know what? Garrett Cole is the best pitcher in all of baseball. And there was a very good chance he comes out here and shuts us down in Game 5. So why are we going to waste Max Scherzer in Game 5 knowing that Garrett Cole is going to come out here and shut us down? Yeah, we beat him Game 1, but what are the chances you beat Garrett Cole twice in one series? Slim to none. Slim to none. So maybe the Nationals were just like, Maybe the Nationals said there's no way that we're going to be able to beat Garrett Cole in Game 5 in Nationals Park, but we'll play the probability, we'll play the odds, we'll play the pattern, so to speak, of road team always winning, and then we're just going to Houston. We know we can hit off Justin Verlander. We know he gives up the long ball. We know Steven Strasburg is the best Nationals pitcher in the postseason right now, and we'll win Game 6. And then we could have Max Scherzer come back for Game 7. Maybe that's what they were thinking. Maybe they sent a dude in the middle of the night because they knew Max Scherzer wouldn't just say, "Okay, I'm scratching myself from Game 5. I'm done. I'm calling it in. I'm calling quits." Maybe the Nationals sent somebody to Max Scherzer's house to beat him up in the middle of the night and give him some muscle spasms to make sure that he wouldn't pitch Game 5, because they knew Max Scherzer wouldn't want to scratch himself from it, but not beat him up hard enough so that he'd miss Game 7. I don't think Max Scherzer misses Game 7 if it comes to it. I think Max Scherzer is going to pitch in a Game 7. It's Max Scherzer. He's a madman. Mad Max. He's got 2 different colored eyes, man. This dude's crazy. This dude's insane. And it is what it is. What else was there? What else can we look forward to for 2 more days of baseball? Maybe. I mean, it could be like 9 more hours of baseball by the time this podcast is released. Ryan Zimmerman. Kind of crazy. I saw a stat that said, well, one, we all know he was the first pick overall, or the first national pick that the Nationals took. So he gets the first home run at Nationals Park when the franchise starts. And then he hits the first home run in the playoffs in the first Nationals franchise playoff game. And then he hits the first home run for the first World Series game that the Nationals play in franchise history. Ryan Zimmerman, special guy. I wonder if he's going to make the Hall of Fame. I wonder if he'll make the Hall of Fame. I guess I don't know his stats enough to just say, Ryan Zimmerman, Hall of Fame, first ballot. Probably not first ballot. I don't see that happening. Two times All-Star, won a Gold Glove, won a Silver Slugger, a career 37.8 WAR. He's got 1,700 hits, 270 home runs, a batting average just under 280. Oh, it's close. It's close for sure. Huh. It'll be interesting if Ryan Zimmerman can make the Hall of Fame. Started off in 2005, All-Star 2009, All-Star 2017. Second in Rookie of the Year voting in 2006. Huh. Played in 8 series in the postseason. 279 hitter in the postseason. 325 on base percentage. 477 slugging. Interesting. If it was just those stats alone, I don't think he gets in. I don't think he makes it into the World Series, or makes it into the Hall of Fame, excuse me. You want to talk about Gerardo Parra being a great fit into this Washington Nationals clubhouse. You see what they do that every single game, that shark do baby. Something like that, right? I probably messed it up. But I think he does something to that effect. I don't know the song exactly. I'll say it now, and I've said it since he left the Rockies, since the Rockies decided not to bring him back. He's the biggest piece that the Rockies did not bring back. He is a big clubhouse guy. Big, big, big clubhouse guy. And the Rockies missed him. And would you look at that? The Nationals pick him up, and what do? They become the best team in baseball since, May 24th? Something like that. Best team in baseball since May 24th. They put up 3 runs. But how do these 2 teams get to the World Series, I guess? I was thinking about writing an article about this, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday after the World Series is done, about how baseball teams basically aren't the same anymore. Or you building a team, there is a way to solidify yourself as one of the best teams in baseball, and it's not by the way that you think. You want to look at the bullpens? Teams spend crazy money on the back end of bullpens thinking, if we can just close the game out in the 8th and 9th inning, then we'll win, right? It's no. Look at the Rockies. Spending $90 million on 3 different guys. And look where that got them this season. Got them with the worst closer in baseball. Got them to almost last place in the National League had it not been for a season-ending streak against the Brewers, and the Brewers just got cold. Otherwise, we'd finish in last place in the National League West. We're gonna look at the Yankees. Spend $105 million on a couple bullpen guys this offseason. Look where it got them. Sitting at home watching the World Series. But you want to talk about teams that have the solution, so to speak. I guess solution isn't the right word, but the way to basically make your team a better team is starting pitching. You look at this year, who's in the World Series this year? The Nationals and the Astros. You want to look at their top 3 guys on each side? The Nationals, you got Max Scherzer, Mad Max, 2 different colored eyes. Dude's a beast. Steven Strasburg, again, 18 wins this season. Patrick Corbin, somebody who was a Cy Young candidate just a year ago, and who had a monster signing this offseason. Starting pitching. Look at the other side. Look at the Astros. You got 2 guys that started the season in Houston as Cy Young candidates. Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander. They were Cy Young candidates all season long. You got Garrett Cole who was on the winning side of games for like 26 straight games or something like that. Garrett Cole's going to win the Cy Young this year. Justin Verlander, who finished in Cy Young voting last year, he's going to finish in Cy Young voting again this year. And then the Astros make a trade for Zach Greinke, another Cy Young Award winner, at the deadline. The key to postseason baseball is not bullpens. It's not what you think. It's starting pitching. It's saying we have 5 games to win 3 games. We got to win 3 of 5. And if you have 3 of the best pitchers in all of baseball, 3 Cy Young candidates, you got to like your chances. Because at the end of the day, I got 3 starting pitchers that are Cy Young candidates that can potentially throw over 21 innings apiece, or 21 innings combined in 3 games. But if I have a Aroldis Chapman, one of the best closers in all of baseball, Reliever of the Year award, he can only pitch 3 innings over 3 games. You really don't want to throw him more than an inning a night. You know? The game's changed. It's not about bullpen arms. It's not about winning the 8th and 9th inning. Well, yeah, you want to win the 8th and 9th inning, obviously. But you can't win the 8th and 9th inning if you're not anywhere in the ball game for 1 through 7. You can't. It's that simple. It is that simple. It is all starting pitching. It is about shutting that team down for the first 6-7 innings of the baseball game and letting your offense go to work. That's why the Yankees are sitting at home right now. That's why the Rockies are sitting at home right now. The Dodgers are sitting at home right now, but same thing. They had a great starting pitching core. I mean, Walker Buehler is going to be the best pitcher in baseball for the next 10 years. Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to win the Cy Young. And you still got Clayton Kershaw, who gets you to the postseason. Kind of flops in the postseason. He really does flop in the postseason. Not kind of. Really does flop in the postseason. You know? So at the end of the day, I think it's about starting pitching. It really is. You could have the best lineup out there, but if they go and put up 2 runs on the board because you're facing another dominant pitcher, it comes down to starting pitching. You have to match and exceed whatever the other team is doing. Your starting pitcher has to go out there and doesn't have to throw a gem every single time out there, but if your offense can only put up 2 runs a game like the Rockies did this season, then really you need a great starting pitching, and you need 2 decent guys in the back end of that bullpen that can come in and close it out for you. Starting pitching. It's that simple. It's something that Colorado's always struggled with. But you want to look at the Dodgers, you want to look at the Astros, you want to look at the Nationals, look at their starting pitching rotations. Look where it got them. Dodgers is the best, one of the number 2 team in baseball. The Astros, number 1 team in all baseball at the end of the regular season. And the Nationals, look where it got them and walked them all the way into a World Series. Winning the first 2 games of a World Series at that. Interesting. It's interesting. But back to Game 6 tonight. Now that we're almost 40 minutes into this podcast. Carlos Correa said, if the Astros win the World Series in Houston, he said, quote, I think I'll black out for the first time in my life. End quote. But he didn't black out after Jose Altuve's walk-off? Bregman's Game 5 winner? I guess the problem with blacking out is that you don't remember doing it. That's really the problem here. Said he's never blacked out in his life. One of the best shortstops in all of baseball right now. He's never blacked out. I believe it. But you win the World Series for the second time in 3 years. You come back from a 2-0 deficit. Yeah, you deserve to black out, man. Get it, man. Go ahead, do it. Was it Carlos Correa that proposed to his girlfriend after they won the World Series in 2017? Was it Carlos Correa? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I don't know who did it. Although I remember it was him and Ken Rosenthal set it up to, like, was it that he gave Ken Rosenthal the ring and that he would interview him post-game? Something to that effect. Something to that effect that Ken Rosenthal gave him the ring, and during the interview, he would bring his girlfriend there, and on national television would propose to his girlfriend. It was Carlos Correa. I just looked it up. Carlos Correa, shortstop for the team, proposed to his girlfriend, Daniela Rodriguez, 21 years old, on national television after his team won. Imagine being 21 years old, dating the starting shortstop on the World Series winner. Gosh, what am I doing with my life? I just turned 21 in August. What am I doing? I'm talking on a podcast. A podcast, man. You want to listen to a podcast maybe? Yeah. You want to listen to a podcast? This girl's dating a starting shortstop on the World Series team at 21 years old. Carlos Correa was probably 21, 22 at the time. Gosh, what is he doing with his life? Out here playing in World Series games. I'm 21, talking on a podcast. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. But should be a great game tonight. I'm really looking forward to Game 6. Again, I said Astros in 6, so of course I want the Astros to win tonight. But at the end of the day, I also love baseball, and I want to see a Game 7. I really do want to see a Game 7. I want to see a Max Scherzer versus Zach Greinke. Gosh, I love Zach Greinke. Love watching him pitch. Just absolutely emotionless. Him and Juan Soto went at it the other night in what was that, Game 3? Zach Greinke playing mind games with Juan Soto playing mind games with Zach Greinke. That bat ended in a walk, I believe, but to whatever effect it was, Zach Greinke got behind like 2-0 or something, and Juan Soto like squares him up and just grabs his jock. He grabs his stuff, grabs his cup, and looks Greinke dead in the eye. Greinke absolutely emotionless, doesn't care, doesn't face him. Not one bit. So what does Greinke do? Comes back with a strike. Inner part of the black, right? So now you're looking at, what, a 2-1 count? Juan Soto again was like, I wonder what he's going to throw right here. 2-1 count, fastball, you know? What does Zach Greinke do? Comes in upper right underneath his chin with a 96-mile-per-hour fastball. Right under the chin. Knock him down. Sends him walking up the first base line. Whole Nationals crowd boos Zach Greinke. Sounds like 3-1. Zach Greinke's looking at Juan Soto. And Juan Soto grabs his stuff again. And Zach Greinke's looking in for what pitch to throw. 3-1, it's a clear fastball count. And what does Greinke do? He shakes off his catcher. Juan Soto's like, okay. He just shook off his catcher. He's afraid to throw me a fastball right here. He's 100% throwing me an off-speed pitch right here, 3-1. What does Greinke do? Gives him a fastball almost right down the pipe. Right at the knee. Absolutely freezes Juan Soto. Next pitch, Zach Greinke ends up walking him. But still, it was like mind games from Zach Greinke and Juan Soto. Absolute mind games. That's what I love about baseball. It's all mental. A lot of it is mental. You know? A lot of it is mental. But Game 6 tonight, obviously, like I said, I hope to see a Game 7. But I said it, Astros in 6. Astros come back down 2-0 to win 4 straight games. To beat the hottest team in baseball 4 straight times. That's what I hope happens tonight. But my prediction for tonight is that although I think the Astros win in 6, that's what my initial prediction was, I have to go with what's been happening. I have to go with patterns. And Steven Strasburg is, I think, one of the best postseason pitchers right now. Justin Verlander has struggled this postseason, struggled with the long ball. And I think there's going to be an inning where the Nationals put up a crooked number, whether it's off Verlander or somebody off in the bullpen, 6th or 7th inning. Nationals are going to put up a crooked number, and we will see you tomorrow night. There will be a Game 7 tomorrow night. I think this game is going to be like a 6-2 game, 6-3 game. You know what? I'll go 6-3. Nationals win 6-3 tonight. Steven Strasburg pitches 7 innings of 1-run baseball. Astros try to put up a fight too little, too late in the 8th and 9th inning. Too little, too late. Nationals offense finds their bats finally because they left them in Houston. And the Nationals win 6-3, and we're going to play a Game 7 tomorrow night. We're going to play a Game 7 tomorrow night in Houston. This is the Game 7 podcast after all. You gotta root for Game 7s. Anything can happen in Game 7. Absolutely anything. That's my prediction for tonight. 6-3 Nationals. Write it in the books. I kind of miss Will. I haven't had a chance to really talk to him about the World Series at all over the past week. Will, if you're listening, I miss you. We got to figure out a time for us to get back in the studio again. Recap this World Series. Will and I haven't had a chance to really talk about it too much. Both been a little busy, especially with this horrible weather that we've had in Denver this past week, or I guess the past couple days. A couple of my classes got canceled. Sucks, but it is what it is. October. Can you imagine if the Rockies were playing baseball in Denver right now? Gosh, that game would suck. But you know who'd be there? Me. I would 100% be there. I'd find a way to get to a World Series game. I really would. What did we learn today? Let's wrap this up. What did we learn today? learn today? Let's wrap this up. What did we learn today? I'd find a way to get to a World Series game. I really would. But what did we learn today? What did we learn this week on the podcast? Well, I learned that it's R.A. Dickey's birthday. What? He was born in 1974, so that makes him, what, 45 today? I think something like that. That's quick math in my head. Something like that. 45 years old. That's what I learned today. R.A. Dickey turned 45. I didn't know he won a bronze medal, though, 1996. I didn't know he was part of that baseball team. 1996 was the Olympics in Atlanta, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was in Atlanta, 1996. Thank you, Met Radio, for hosting this podcast. As always, Met Radio is the student voice of MSU Denver. Met Radio is a smaller part of Met Media. Met Media is basically what gives students a opportunity to be journalists at MSU Denver. Regardless, you don't have to go to MSU Denver to be a part of Met Media. They got the Metropolitan, which is the newspaper. They got the Metrosphere, which is the magazine. They got the Met Report, which is the TV. And then obviously Met Radio. Something positive about Met Radio is that, or I guess Met Media in general, is that this gives us students a chance to, it gives us students a chance to basically fail in a collegiate setting without there being any repercussions. This is a place for students to learn and to basically become better journalists, better writers, better reporters, better whatever you want to do. It gives you a chance to basically be a part of that, be a part of something special, to learn to fail without the repercussions, and to ultimately learn what you want to do in life. You know, this is something that people put on their resumes, something that people put on their what do you want to call it? Their reports. I don't know, something that you can hand a potential employer. You know, it gives them something to physically that you can say, hey, I wrote 3 articles. These are my last 3 articles for Met Media, something like that. You know, gives students the opportunity to fail at the collegiate setting without any repercussions, and really helps us grow as individuals. This podcast, Game 7 Podcast, you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Hit us up with questions for the next podcast. Interact with us on social media. If you didn't like what I said today, email me, game7show@gmail.com. Facebook, you can like us, message us, review us, Game 7 Show. YouTube, Game 7 Show. Twitter, @_Game7. You can follow me at Isaac_Bugarin. Will be back next week, hopefully. You can follow him at Will_Sattler. I think that dude has 2 Twitter accounts. One is Will_Sattler and another is Will Sattler. This podcast will be back next week. Maybe we could do one after the World Series ends. I don't know. But I'm writing an article talking about basically what I was talking about earlier in the podcast about starting pitching and bullpens and stuff. So that's an article that's in the works right now. You could read that later on. As always want to remind you guys that if you're looking for a pet, go to the shelter first.